clocks were ticking and talking merrily about him, the door opened. There stood a man carrying a large and wearing a beautiful. I have brought you a precious clock repaired from the beautiful castle near the mountains. The clock is a favorite of our beloved young prince, and he wishes to have it repaired as soon as possible. It was a beautiful clock with carved grape leaves and little pine cones and bushy-tailed shape of a heart. What a beautiful clock, said Hans. Yes, and with that he left the shop. He took out all the wheels. He dusted all the gears. He oiled all the chains. Then he put it all back together, hung the clock on the wall, and started the pendulum. The pendulum ticked, the wheels turned, and the little cuckoo came out. Would not cuckoo. She would not cuckoo. Try again. The next day, still working on the prince's clock. And when, at noon, the man in the red cloak came, the clock was still not ready. I'm sorry, said Hans. Please, tomorrow the clock will be fixed. Then I shall come tomorrow noon, said the man. But it must be ready then. The clockmaker started to work again. He took out all the wheels. He dusted all the gears. He oiled all the chains. Then he put everything back together again. The pendulum ticked, the wheels turned, the cuckoo came out, but she would not cuckoo. So all the next morning Hans worked. At the stroke of 12, all the clocks in the shop cuckooed. All except the one that belonged to the prince. Just after 12, the man from the castle came. I'm sorry, said Hans. I have never had a clock so difficult to fix. It is still not ready. The man was very angry. Hans Tick-Tocker, said he, this is your last chance. Tomorrow is the third day I shall come. The clock must be fixed by then, because the prince is becoming so lonely without the cuckoo's song. So all that day, Hans Tick-Tocker worked. He was still working when night came. The moonlight shone on the mountains, but the only light in the village was the lamp in the clockmaker's shop. Hans was still trying to fix the prince's clock. It was midnight when his wife tiptoed into the shop. Hans, she called, you must come to bed. It is so late. Yes, yes, said Hans, as soon as I finish. But you are much too tired, Hans. I must fix the clock. He had never had anything so difficult. On and on he worked, growing more weary by the hour. Finally, his eyes grew heavy, and soon he was fast asleep. The night passed. And when the bright dawn came up over the village, the clockmaker's wife rushed into the shop. Wake up, Hans, she said. I must tell you about the dream I had. I dreamed of the prince's clock and the little cuckoo that wouldn't cuckoo. Another bird flew over to her and began to sing. The cuckoo began to cuckoo, and they sang together. Together, said Hans. That's it. Don't you see, dear wife? The little cuckoo has been lonely. In one corner of Hans had an old clock that had not. Out of this clock he took the cuckoo bird, a red one with a saucy tail. Then very carefully he took the prince's clock and made 2 heart-shaped doors instead of the one. And then he fixed the little red cuckoo in its place. It was just before 12 o'clock when the door opened and the man in the red cloak came in. "Is it ready?" he asked. "Shh," whispered Hans. Suddenly, both doors on the prince's clock flew open. The red bird chirped, and wonder of wonders, the cuckoo cuckooed. She cuckooed. "Wonderful," said the man. "You fixed the clock. You fixed it. That is going to make our lonely prince very happy. Making others happy is a wonderful thing to do." The very next day, in his beautiful golden coach, the happy prince rode from his castle to the village. When the coach stopped before the clockmaker's shop, the villagers greeted their prince. Hans wondered what was happening outside his shop. He looked, and there stood the prince himself. He was followed by the man in the red cloak, who carried something on a pillow. Hans Ticktocker could hardly believe his eyes. He bowed until his glasses almost slipped off his nose. "Hans Ticktocker," said the prince, "giving you this gold for the wonderful work you did on my clock is a real pleasure. But my greatest happiness is giving you this scroll. From this day forward, Hans Ticktocker shall be known as the best clockmaker in our kingdom. The work of his hands and the love of his heart made someone happy." And many were the people who came to read the scroll in the shop of their happy little clockmaker. And that is how, even today, many cuckoo clocks have two birds, two that sing together.